by sort of the first quarter of next year, we'll have a better idea as to where they go. They certainly have an intent to be part of an international cricket development at Western Springs, but we've got a lot of the detail to work through.
Do we include Auckland cricket in these conversations, Chris?
Yes, Auckland cricket would be part of that, and I've been in discussions with them as well. And clearly, there's the challenge for them around Eden Park and the future.
Okay. Oh gosh, I am a little bit worried now. We are now at 11:30. We are not into the formal agenda yet. Councillors, can I just ask you to look deep inside your hearts, your questions that you want to ask. We're going to have 3 years with these lovely people. All of these issues are coming back to us. Is your question critical to today? Councillor Lee, Councillor Walker and Deputy Mayor Cashmore. Not critical to today? You're a good man. Councillor Walker, critical to today?
Sorry, can I just say, point of order, they are actually coming to the Finance Committee next week to talk about finance, so if we could keep it...
Exactly. Not a point of order, but a good bit of guidance.
We look forward to that.
Not critical, Councillor?
Well, just have a question that I'd like to put. I don't need it flushed out today, but as much and all as New Zealand cricket might have an interest in Western Springs, if they're just having a proposition put on the table where they're not having to contribute, it's just going to be laid on, perhaps of course they might say yes. Okay. But what I want to know is whether it's actually needed. Good. Because it costs a lot of money.
Brilliant. Councillor, this is the ongoing stadium strategy discussion where we'll flesh that out and canvass that. Councillor Denise Lee,
it might be critical-ish depending on where you're at with your strategy. So you reference to revenue generation via philanthropic and sponsorship sources. We're getting quite a bit of that thematically from other CCOs and other council parent departments. Joined up conversation, where are you at with that? Are you research gathering phase, strategy implementation, and is there any cohesion with, I'm thinking the work that Louise Mason's doing, how are we joining any dots, or is that not possible?
Yes, no, we are joining the dots, and we work closely with Louise's team on that. But we also see some opportunities around our own venues. For instance, there hasn't been a naming rights at Mount Smart since probably 2005, 2006. So there's opportunities around events that we run, I think, to get some support. So we are working together, also looking as what those commercial opportunities will be.
I know it's not Louise here, but are we going to be seeing something in terms of next phase?
Councillor, can I suggest that also links into, if the group is coming to finance, I think that gives the team a chance to actually work that through. It's a financial consideration. Can I suggest we pick that up at finance? Lovely. I'm going to move the recommendation that we receive the presentation and warmly thank the team, seconded by Councillor Watson. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, and your work is appreciated, as your clear presentation to us. Thank you. So we move on to item number 12, which is the extension of the regional pest management strategy. Committee, I'm going to just... What's that? Hang on. No. I was going to go straight to item 12. There you go. Moment of panic sets in as I realise how much we've got to go through. Our Waste Advisory Group. We have a very brief presentation. However, my sense is that most people are very well aware of the work that the Waste Advisory Group does. We have canvassed... Thanks, Paul. You can join us. There may be questions, but I don't think we need the presentation. We have several councillors who have been approached just casually, who were part of the discussions and who were asked if they would be keen to have their names put forward. These are the councillors who have, and we probably have room for another couple. I was hoping that Councillor Greg Sayers might be keen to participate, given the fact that Rodney has been a hotbed of concern about the rollout of the waste strategy. I'm not too sure where councillor Sayers
I'd be interested in this as
is.
well. from
Okay,
the
so
top
councillor Daniel Newman would like to add his, which I think is great for the south. We may talk, I think, to councillor Sayers. I just think it would be worth having Rodney's input. And I think that might be the extent. So just while we're, councillor,
I'm happy to move it A and B.
you're happy to move A and B.
Get it through.
Just while we do that, Parul, just in the setting up of the advisory group, is there anything you want to add? I think we're pretty comfortable with where we're going.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report talks about the fact that this is not a decision-making group. It is a group that guides the
Exactly.
staff in terms of the implementation, so it would be really wonderful to have good
Excellent.
representation.
Okay, anything else? It's
I'm
been
just saying
moved by
that-
Councillor Darby, seconded Councillor
Yeah,
Philip Bainer.
I'm just going to point out that because you are chairing that committee, I don't know whether you wish me to be on it as well. I just thought it might be.
Either yourself or Councillor Collins, and I think Councillor Newman, we've got a lot going on in
Around
the
the
south and
Okay.
in Rodney.
I'll leave it on there.
Okay.
Thank you.
You happy?
Yeah.
Um,
Just
Member
for the
Wilcox?
discussion, Madam Chair, a person has been appointed to become a member of the Waste
Yeah.
Policy, of this group.
So someone, the IMSB's already appointed someone. Do we know who it is?
Yes, we do.
Is it you?
Yes, we do, but please wait for official.
We'll wait for official. Okay, sorry, oops, protocol breach. So we've got our team, we know what we're doing, it's been moved and seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, and thank you to the people who've put their names forward for that. And Parul, I hope you heard from Mexico the warm words that were spoken about you and your team. It's extraordinary. The governing body representative to ARC and the, hang on a minute, extension of the pest management strategy. Again, this is a fairly machinery piece of work. I'm sure if there are questions, we can have them asked. Is there,
Happy to move.
you're happy to move, Councillor Wayne, Councillor Walker, Councillor Collins? Is there anything we need to add before we accept the extension?
I'm happy to take the report as read. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Questions? Member Wilcox.
Yeah, am I right in thinking that we extended this once before?
Yes, yeah. This will be the last time.
Okay.
Just the government time.
It's a good point made. So we're agreeing to extend this for the last time, acknowledging all the work that's been done leading up to now. It's been moved and seconded. I'll put that. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And the appointment of a governing body representative to ARC in the Park.
I would like to stay on. if
You're
possible.
happy to stay on, Councillor Clow?
Sweet,
Happy to stay on.
sweet.
Right. Is it one or two? So Councillor Clow, Councillor Walker, that's lucky. I gently canvassed with Councillor Fletcher, who I thought would be superb in this role. She was comfortable to not do that this time round. Happy to move. Councillor Casey. Oh, Glenn. Councillor Wilcox. Member Wilcox, sorry.
Glenn is good enough. Can I ask a question, Madam
Yeah,
Chair?
absolutely.
In the Māori impact statement, you talk about kawerau maki. Is there any, it's recognised that that's the rohe. I just want to feel comfortable that they're actually really part of the process. Having remembered my time with the Waitakere, what were we called? The Waitakere group, that we did that way back then to get that Waitakere Rangers Act kind of sorted out, and Ngāti Whātua and Kawerau Maki were right in there with that kaupapa. So I'm just wondering, are we cementing them into this process, and is there any discussions with the other group in the Waitakere Rangers Heritage Act, that is Ngāti Whātua?
Kia ora. So the Arc of the Park project is led primarily by the project manager who's employed by Forest and Bird, who's based out on the site out at the Cascades. Her name's Gillian Wadhams, and she liaises frequently with the Kawerau Amaki representatives. The project has a number of aims to involve Kawerau Amaki more actively in the project, and to date, I think it's fair to say they have been kept informed of what's going on, but haven't taken too many opportunities to be actively involved, but a number of approaches have been made to their representatives along those lines. The other thing is that our Parks Department, through the operational staff out in the Waitakere Ranges, particularly Stephen Bell, who's the principal ranger for the Western sector, liaises regularly with Kawerau Amaki. In terms of direct involvement with other iwi, including Ngāti Whātua, the Ark in the Park project doesn't specifically, in terms of the project operations on the ground, work so directly with other iwi. However, that interaction is handled by the Parks Department more generally for operations across the Waitakere Ranges.
Supplementary to that?
Yep.
So I think there's a little gap there, mainly because I'm referring basically to that Waitakere Ranges Act, and I think there's some tidying up to be done in this respect. I'd just like your comment on that.
We can certainly take that on board, and it is it's a matter that the project's aware of, and we can certainly take that back to the governance group and find some appropriate ways to address that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Member Wilcox. I think that's a point well made. Okay, that's been moved and seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So at this stage, I'm just going to move a precedence of business, and I'd like to bring item 16 forward at this stage. This is the Greenfleet item, because we actually have Wayne Westcott from Australia, from Greenfleet, who's here, and at this stage we may need to pick up the chance of finishing the meeting on Thursday, and Wayne won't be there, so it's useful if we can deal with that now. I'll move that we bring item 16 forward at this stage. Moved, seconded by Councillor Clow. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And Richard. Thank you. So we'll just have a quick introduction of the item and an explanation of the item, then we'll move to questions, and if there are questions directly of Wayne, I'll invite him to join us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just introduce Chris Linwood from our legal team, who has been assisting in this piece of work. Madam Chair, I'll just briefly introduce the item and then available to take any questions. So in November 2015, the Parks, Recreation and Sports Committee resolved to negotiate a partnership with Greenfleet that enabled them to carry out ecological restoration programs on regional parkland. And this approval was subject to a number of conditions being achieved, as is set out in paragraph 9 of the report in a bulleted list there. So since then, discussions have progressed to develop an agreement with Greenfleet within those parameters, and that's been achieved with one condition not able to be fully met, which has required us to come back to you today to seek an amendment to that. So this condition was around the no property rights beyond assuring the maintenance of the planting for 50 years are signed, and technically we can't meet that requirement. So so we're seeking an amendment to that to provide some enablement around that. So Greenfleet currently fund their revegetation programs by companies and individuals making donations to offset carbon emissions, and they need to provide a guarantee to meet those commitments to their donors, and specifically that carbon will be sequestered through the establishment of a permanent forest. So our advice is that an encumbrance on the title to record their interest in the carbon is the most appropriate mechanism to achieve that, and that protection would need to then apply in any sale of the land to the third party, though the regional park land is protected in perpetuity, or if councils sought to sell the carbon rights. So, and an encumbrance such as this is something that council does on a frequent basis to ensure performance of our obligations. So, also add that there are huge benefits to council in resourcing the revegetation programs. It fits in with things like the Million Trees program, which is a new one that the Mayor has promoted. It also encourages people to offset carbon emissions and enables us to accelerate our revegetation programs in regional parks. So, Madam Chair, the recommendation seeks to rescind the previous resolution and replace it with one that removes bullet point 4 in paragraph 9, and in B7 of the recommendations enables an encumbrance recording Greenfleet's interest in the carbon to be noted on the property title. So that's the only change to the previous resolution. Happy to take any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We've got some speakers, but I'm actually going to ask Councillor Fletcher if she wishes to raise any concerns about this or questions as the previous chair who dealt with this issue.
Well,
Councillor
Madam Chair, I'm obviously very supportive of the principle of bringing on board these opportunities for partnerships and for achieving the ecological outcomes that we want to see. But I must express some severe reservation at this new information that some encumbrance on the title is required, and I'm really hoping, Madam Chair, that we can actually spend a bit of time on this. If it's not possible to spend time on it today, that there could be perhaps a small working party delegated to actually look at this in more detail. The principle is great, but we would be precedent setting here, and I would have a measure of discomfort with that without actually having all of the detail.